I was trying to buy as much time as I could because I could see that the fire was really starting to spread. And we still didn't get the other guy out yet, so time was of the essence.
The most rewarding thing about my job is making a difference to people, even if they don't know who I am. Like, we made some difference to their lives.
I told her, I was like, there's a fire, we gotta get out. In my job, being out on the road, you do see a lot of things I never would have thought I would have seen what I saw that day.
Good evening, I'm Holly Harrer, your host for a special evening that truly signifies the season of giving. You're about to meet people who have risked their lives to rescue total strangers from a fire. Some are firefighters, some are police officers, some are paramedics. One is a citizen who could have watched from the sidelines with everyone else, but instead chose to run into a burning home. They don't do it for recognition. In fact, they are some of the most humble people I've ever met. They say anyone would have done it, or I was just doing my job. Most are reluctant to accept any awards. They are an inspiration to all of us. Without them, people would have surely died or have been severely injured. The Valley Preferred Spirit of Courage Awards are presented annually by the Burn Prevention Network, an organization whose mission it is to create a world without burns. The award criteria stipulate that recipients must have put themselves at great risk or personal risk to save another person. In my reporting for WFMZ TV, I have covered many of these stories and witnessed their tragedy and devastation as well as their triumph. I have seen tremendous gratitude as well as incredible sorrow in the eyes of families, friends, and neighbors. The stories you are about to see tell of people facing intense heat and choking smoke, many without benefit of special firefighter gear, of police officers, EMTs, and firefighters who respond to every call, never knowing what they will encounter, of burn survivors who must draw upon incredible courage and resilience not only to survive, but to thrive.
The Spirit of Courage Awards program is made possible by Valley Preferred, providing innovative programs to improve healthcare delivery, Lehigh Valley Health Network, and other generous sponsors and donors. You can find the full list at burnprevention.org and in the downloadable program for tonight's event.
As you listen to our heroes' stories tonight, please consider donating to the Burn Prevention Network's Give Burns the Boot campaign. Your contribution will help the network continue to honor heroes with programs such as this. Visit burnprevention.org or use the QR code on your screen to be a vital part of this life-saving mission. In our first Spirit of Courage story, we meet Andy Carr and Matt Fredericks, two volunteer firefighters who are never truly off-duty, even when running errands on a summer evening. Thanks to them, a man and a woman are alive today. They were nominated for this award by Katie Gabry, and the award is sponsored by Highmark.
I had a friend over, we were gonna head out to dinner, and this accident was probably about 2 blocks from my house.
My truck needed some body work done, and my fiance and I were driving up Route 248 in Palmer Township. And she was following me, one car behind me.
So I had the kids in my car because I have the mom car. So I was following behind him, and he was going to drop it off just down the street, and then we were going to go home.
And when we came to the intersection of Newburgh Road, I saw all sorts of commotion and a car appearing to be in an accident, a few cars in front of us.
And I was like, my gut said, here we go. Like, oh no, because I know him, and there's never going to be a time that he's not going to stop and jump at every chance he can to help someone.
I recognized Andy's work vehicle, and he had his lights on it, and he went by.
As I got out of my truck, you could hear the people screaming from inside the vehicle. So I made the 911 call.
Fire EMS 27, MV of entrapment with vehicle on fire.
I could see some flames, and my son's, Mommy, the car's on fire, Mommy.
So I pulled up as close as I could, got out, and I went looking for Andy. Like, okay, what do you need? And people are screaming. There's people stuck in the vehicle.
We got to the back of the minivan, and we were able to force open the trunk hatch. And then at that point, we did notice there were 2 victims inside the car. I entered through the back hatch of the car with the other bystander that had stopped also. The female victim was not buckled in. She was laying on the ground. We were able to assist her out of the car fairly quickly. The driver was screaming in excruciating pain, and he was hanging by his seatbelt. I kind of took a peek up and I saw the fire was getting pretty significant, not really knowing how bad it really was from the inside of the car, that the outside of the car was very well involved in fire. And we were still inside the back of the car. 2 bystanders came up to me and said, "Here, I have fire extinguishers." And I was trying to buy as much time as I could because I could see that the fire was really starting to spread. And we still didn't get the other guy out yet, so time was of the essence. So I was really trying to focus on the firewall of the vehicle to try to keep it from spreading into the cab. Everything happened so fast. Between the bystander and I inside the car, he was trying to unlatch the seatbelt. I was trying to cut the seatbelt because our choices were, we were down to seconds to get this gentleman out of the car. He was able to then get the guy down onto the passenger window. And as he's getting ready to start to pull him out, I can see the dash is really starting to smoke. And I yelled to him, like, "Andy, we got to get out of here now before this comes through. It's close." So as we were trying to drag him out of the back of the car, the flames entered into the passenger compartment of the car that had breached through the windshield. So now there are flames inside the car that we're still inside the car trying to get this gentleman out of the back of the car.
And at that point, the flames were over the car, and now I was in sheer panic, and I couldn't stay calm anymore. And that panicked scream came from me, and I was like, I don't know where he went. We were playing with seconds and dancing with the devil. There was no doubt about that. I remember the driver saying his back was hurting a lot. And every time we tried to do something with him, he was complaining about it. But our choices right now were we were going to get him out in a lot of pain, or the unfortunate circumstances where somebody was going to die inside his car. So he was able to get the guy out as far as he could. I got into the vehicle, grabbed the guy's legs, and we both pulled him out probably good 30 or 40 feet away from the vehicle. And I looked back real quick, and right where I was standing, the fire was already blowing out the back of the car. So I would say probably another good 10 or 15 seconds, there would have been a massive disaster on our hands. By the time we exited the vehicle and took 3 steps, the flames were all the way out of the back of the car. Then I was like screaming for Andy, and there was other people screaming, and it was a nightmare. It was so chaotic. I felt like I kept saying, I feel like I'm in a movie, like this isn't really happening. Once the adrenaline slowed down, the first thing I had to make sure my fiance knew that I was okay, because bad enough that we were through this, and make it even worse, my family stood there and watched the whole situation unfold. After everything was said and done, and our guys were taking care of the car and EMS taking care of the patient, me and him stood back and we were just in shock. Like, did this just happen? Did I think he was gonna die? I don't know. I was scared, but I knew that his goal was to save people, and that's what he did. We did not have any gear, so we were doing this just in the street clothes on our back. We knew our life was definitely in danger, but with the training that we have, it's the risk that we take to save somebody else's life. You're risking your own life day in and day out. You're running into burning buildings for complete strangers, and you don't get anything for it. You're doing it out of the kindness of your heart. It's a big step for in life to be able to do that for somebody, and I'll never give it up. It's something in my blood, and I'll continue to do it until I can't anymore.
Our second Spirit of Courage Award goes to Ricardo Montijo, a man who delivers much more than appliances. He was nominated by Mark Schultz, acting deputy chief of the Scranton Fire Department.
I'm Ricardo Montijo, and I work for Dunmore Appliance. I install appliances all day. In my job, being out on the road, you do see a lot of things, you know what I mean? But I never would have thought I would have seen what I saw that day. Well, on the day of the fire, I was actually directly across the street from where the fire took place. And I was actually in the customer's home, and I was in the process of installing a gas range. And as I was behind the stove, my partner actually noticed out the window there's a fire. Like, he could see the flames on the top of the roof of the house. So I immediately, got up. We all went outside and we seen it. And I heard people say stuff out. They're running around. They're like, I think people are in the home. I ran alongside of the home. And I seen a stairway leading right upstairs. And I just ran up. I opened up her door. I noticed Mary and her little puppy approaching the kitchen, and she was kind of like disoriented, you know. She had her nightgown on. She didn't realize, you know, there was a fire or anything going on. And you could see smoke in her home, but I think she just woke up and trying to get it together what's going on. I just told her, I said, look, I was like, we have to go. There's a fire here, you know, you could see smoke in her house. So she said, you know, oh, my puppy has to go. And I said, I know, definitely. So I picked up her dog and I took her by the arm and got them out of the house as quick as I can. I took them down the stairs, out into the back alley. When I got her to safety, you know, down like 2 houses down on the alley, I cut it across a neighbor's home and ran around to the front. And by the time I went around to the front of the home, it was ready, up in flames. There was no way you can get back in that house. It was lit up. It was lit up pretty bad. But it happened so fast. It was like 3 to 5 minutes. It was just flames and smoke. It was horrible. If I wouldn't have gotten to her when I did, it wouldn't have ended well. Because as fast as that fire burnt that house, it was amazing. The fire department started getting there when I had Mary was her name. When I took her down the alley and when I cut her around through the front, the fire department started, you know, coming. When I called the store, I had to explain what was going on. They understood, but, you know, they were happy, you know, what I did. The next day we went back and we took the stove that we left in our house and everything and finished up what we had to do. Holy, this thing was just burnt down to the ground. It's just ashes. It was a horrible thing. And knowing too that the guy who lost his life wasn't much older than I was. I was always brought up to, you know, to help as much as we can, stuff like that. I'm sure anyone given the opportunity would have, you know, taken it, you know. But it's just, you know, I was at the right place at the right time, I guess. I was hoping maybe it could have been a little sooner. It could have helped that guy downstairs out, you know. At the time, my adrenaline is going. I really had not much going through my head. I just knew that I had to do what I could do as much as I could do. That's all I know. I didn't think of, you know, really, you know, what can happen. Just hoping that it just ends well. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I'm just a regular person, just did what he can do, and that was it, you know. You never know, you know, when your time can come, you know. You gotta do you gotta live the best that you can. You gotta look out for each other, number one. My employer and my family, friends, all proud of what I did, you know. I'm proud of myself too.
Our third Spirit of Courage Award goes to 4 people who experienced the anguish of being unable to save 3 lives and the miracle of saving 1. Congratulations to Michael Fritz, Matt Markle, Todd Nelson, and Kayla Shantz. They were nominated by John Kloss of the Eastern Pennsylvania EMS Council.
Well, the night of the accident was March 6th. It was 8:37 p.m. when we got dispatched.
Received the dispatch of a motor vehicle accident with a vehicle into a pole, and then it was further reported that the vehicle had caught fire and there were still people inside the vehicle.
We knew right away that something was off, just the way it was dispatched.
We only had a 3 or 4 minute response time to where the scene was supposed to be, and I don't think the county stopped talking to us on the radio the entire time, and that's also something that's very uncommon.
I was on scene probably within 30 seconds. It was, as you would imagine, pretty chaotic. There were numerous bystanders around. People are running up to me saying that there are still people trapped inside the vehicle.
I could see the fire from, you know, a quarter mile away. When we got there, the car was very much on fire.
And it was pretty obvious right off the bat that this was very, very serious. One of the police officers had come up to us and he just said, "Matt, there's kids in the car."
I went up to look to see if I could extricate anybody from the car, and
The tree was on fire, the wires above it were starting to catch fire. So it was all things that we had to take into consideration when we were trying to put the fire out.
It was very dangerous. There was a lot of fire.
the car wasn't fully involved, but the front engine compartment was on fire, and the fire was moving back into where the people were trapped.
We grabbed as many fire extinguishers as we could, trying to put the fire out, save who we could.
The fire was so intense that the extinguishers didn't really have any effect.
I could feel the heat from the fire. I feel the heat from above me, from the trees and the wires, which is nerve-wracking.
From my point of view, it did not look like there were any survivors in that vehicle. I did not see any movement, any signs of life, nothing.
Unfortunately, we thought that was it, that we couldn't save any of them.
And we were, at that point, starting to secure the scene for the fire department.
And you kind of feel helpless, like I wish there was more that we could do, but I think at that point, we kind of had exhausted everything that we could do with our training and our equipment. But within seconds of me even thinking that, I started hearing a voice yelling.
Just about when we were ready to give up, we heard somebody from the back of the car yell for help. All of us just stopped and looked around, trying to figure out where it was coming from.
We grabbed our tools that we have for breaching vehicles.
As we raised the trunk, I recall specifically there was a pop, and I thought, wow, that's the gas tank, But it wasn't. It was just a tire that went. But the gas tank is right there. Right underneath there. So, yeah, that was a bit scary.
Because of the extension of the damage, we weren't able to visualize everywhere in the car.
And we're like, where are you? And he was actually able to answer us.
So I grabbed one of the tools that was available, and I started hitting the back window to try to break the window out. And almost immediately, a hand came out.
We ended up pulling the passenger from the vehicle, and fortunately, he survived.
It was odd because we had just come to the realization there was nothing else that we could do, and then to have the hand kind of shoot out and say that there actually was hope to do something, it was kind of unbelievable.
It was just incredible that he was alive and was able to survive what he survived.
Probably another 45 seconds before the fire would have gone into that area of the car.
We brought him to the side of the road while we got our stretcher ready, and I was talking with him, and to me that was just amazing.
And he was like, thank you, which was unbelievably that he was conscious.
With the severity of the scene, I just remember being shocked that he was actually talking to me, and he might have a chance to survive this. And with 30 seconds earlier, I would have thought this crash was unsurvivable by anybody.
To see his arms come out and to grab him and pull someone to safety was like, wow, I never anticipated anything like that ever happening.
And then we constantly checked on his status to see how he was doing. So to hear that he was discharged and went to rehab and then eventually went home to his family, it was a miracle.
If Brandon wouldn't have woke up when he did and started yelling for help, I'm certain he would have perished in the accident.
It was a very tragic story. Unfortunately, 3 people lost their lives that day. I think if we wouldn't have gotten there as quickly as we did, I don't think Brandon would have made it either. I think it would have been a loss for all 4 of them.
I can't emphasize enough the teamwork and that comes together to work through something like this. It's not a one-person thing at all.
Valley Preferred and Lehigh Valley Health Network are proud to partner with the Burn Prevention Network to prevent fires and burn injuries and to save and restore lives. Earlier this year, artists transformed a 183-foot-long outdoor wall at Lehigh Valley Hospital Cedar Crest into a sanctuary of healing and reflection for burn survivors, their families, and all patients and staff. Let's hear more about this special project and the amazing people behind it.
We created a mural in our operating room that's specifically used for our burn patients. That idea created a safe place. It reduced anxiety. Every inch is covered with beautiful artwork. And we wanted to take that same principle, that same idea, and bring it out to the outdoors where people could take themselves, their families, and relieve their anxieties and collect their thoughts, be with their loved ones, and even get away from us, our healthcare providers.
From the beginning, the whole concept was healing, calm, comforting, and inviting for all of the patients and the staff. The involvement of the burn patients, they sort of guided us and inspired us as to what they wanted to see. But I think if it wasn't for them, I don't think we all would have stuck with it and this project wouldn't have happened. I think they all stayed inspired, Joe stayed inspired, Bill Kent. The wheels kept turning because of them.
Art does have healing powers. It's absolutely true. It's part of our brain that just relaxes when you see, have that visual connection.
So my hope would be, as people see this and experience this, as they walk down the street or they see the trees, or you're driving on 78 and you see the hills, you creates more interaction with life beyond this courtyard.
So when people came to visit the wall, as we were working on it, it would be overwhelmingly, it was very positive, very supportive.
Towards the end here, I was in the building and someone stopped me, and sometimes they would stop us because they'd see paint on our clothing and say, "Were you working on the mural?" And I'd say, "Yeah." She said, "Well, I just want to tell you, it is like being in paradise."
We really invested ourselves in creating something that is healing. And I think we got a lot of really positive feedback from people who saw it.
This mural has like a meditative quality, I think. You can look at parts of it, walk past it, imagine yourself in there, and people have said that to us. They said, "I want to walk in there and just sit under that tree or on that bench." And that's exactly what you want them to believe, to say, and believe that they're feeling. So that we consider that a high compliment. This mural stands out for me because I had the same feeling I had when we worked on the operating room 7 years ago, which was, it's like a higher purpose than just painting a wall.
It was important for me because, you know, as a patient, we don't see anything outside of our little hospital bed in our room, and I wanted to give the patients and, you know, myself a little inspiration and just, you know, something to say, you know, we're thinking about you too, even though you're, you know, stuck in the hospital.
You know, it's just, there's just nothing like the loss that a burn survivor goes through. You have to have something to connect with. And that's what this is all about, a connection that we can find. That's what this is. This is a kind of like a guarantee that it'll get better.
There were many times that my wife told me, you know, she just needed to actually get someplace where she could sit down, gather her thoughts together, between my next procedures that were coming up, my next surgeries that were coming up. It's really a nice, tranquil place for somebody to just come sit down and really get your thoughts together.
I am extremely grateful to all of those involved for the peace and the comfort that this garden will bring to our future patients. And thanks to Terry Capuano, Bill Kent, and Dr. Thomas McLaughlin, their help and faith sustained our ideas for 7 years, and our dream is now a reality. The Healing Garden brings to all our patients, our survivors, families, and our staff members. It's a beautiful place to nurse their souls. It says your community loves you and supports you, and that's the most beautiful gift.
When you're in the hospital, and especially if you're laying in the bed and you really can't move, and all you see is really the ceiling and the walls of your own room, but to actually be able to be put in a wheelchair and pushed down here and actually, you know, get to just sit here and look at the mural, I mean, it is unbelievable.
Just to be able to walk out and, you know, see this and the weather, like, makes me feel human.
What a lovely, soothing space. Our fourth Spirit of Courage Award recognizes Ronald Fry and Josiah Newsom, who responded to a laundromat fire that quickly became a life and death situation. They were nominated by Michael Glore, Deputy Chief of the City of Reading Department of Fire and Rescue Services.
So it was about 10 o'clock or 10:30, I'm not sure what time of the night, and we were out driver training someone new on the tower. And the box tones dropped, the alert tones for a fire, about 3 blocks away from where we were. And I looked over and I saw the column smoke, so I knew we had a fire.
So they keyed up on the radio pretty much right away and said they had smoke showing. So while we were en route, we knew it was going to be an actual job.
So we arrived within about a minute and a half, the first truck there. And it was a corner property. It was a laundromat on the first floor with apartments above it. Reports came over the radio that there might be kids trapped upstairs. So I went around the front of the building to where the stairs were to go upstairs.
We came up to the side. We were trying to get in the alleyway to the rear so we could get a size up, and there was cars parked out to the corner. I ran about a block with all my gear and tools, and as I get up to the front of the building, the chief says, "Hey, this man just told me that his children are trapped upstairs. I need you to get up there and search." So right away my job changed from assessing the rear to now I'm part of the search team.
Made my way upstairs, and it was really, you couldn't see in front of your face. It was total darkness. Tried to make my way to the front on the second floor. Eventually made my way there, met up with my lieutenant, who was already doing a search of the front second floor apartment.
As I got up to the top of the stairs, there was no visibility, just dark, inky smoke banked to the floor. So I called out to them and said, "Hey, where are you guys at?" I kind of met up with them, tried to do a face-to-face even though we couldn't really see each other. And the lieutenant said, "Fry and I are gonna search this front apartment here where they thought the children were initially, and if you can get the rear apartment." I turned around, crawled back the hallway till I got to the rear apartment, where I found a locked door, and like I said, zero visibility. So I brought what we call a New York hook. So as I get to this locked door, all I have is a New York hook, since my job changed, and now I don't have the right tool for the job. Once I chopped around the doorknob and got entry into the room, I started a search. I was looking for children, so I was trying to search small, looking under the bed, under the covers, in the closet. I got into the back room, and like I said, I'm expecting children, and I just found a grown man.
Firefighter Newsom, Josiah, radioed that he had found a semi-conscious victim in the second floor rear.
I remember there was a door off the kitchen that I thought went to a fire escape. So I drug him by myself through no visibility. I found the door, I opened the door, and I realized it was just a porch, and there was no steps off the porch, there was no fire escape. So as you can imagine, I had ran a block in all my gear, got up to the stairs, chopped through a door with the wrong tool, finally get to the rear apartment, and now I have to drag this man by myself to the door, thinking I'm outside finally with help, and there's nothing we can do. So I had to change the route of travel, take him back through the apartment to the stairs, the interior stairwell that we came up. It was just really hot and that nasty, dark, inky smoke that kind of gives firemen the chills.
Made our way, found our way, and again, it's zero visibility. Fire was right below us, to the rear apartment, and that's where I met up with Firefighter Newsom, who was already dragging the victim towards the interior stairs. I grabbed the victim by the legs, and he had the torso, and we got the guy down the stairs, which took all of our effort. So we were there, and people were still taking out windows up above us and shattering glass down on the victim. So myself, Josiah, and another fireman covered the victim with our bodies.
We loaded him up on the stretcher, and they took off to the ambulance, got him in the back of the ambulance, and started their care of him.
Others were still searching for the kid that was supposedly trapped somewhere.
They searched the apartment very well, never found anything. Once they got outside, the male that originally said his children were up there realized that he didn't have his children with him.
It was just that adult male on the rear second floor.
You never know what you're gonna find, so just make sure that you're searching like it would be your own family member, and you would want somebody to search for them. This was my first rescue out of a fire. Obviously, I've come across other people in fires that weren't able to be rescued, but this was the first time I found a patient that was survivable that we could bring out.
That makes this whole job worth it. That's what the whole thing's about. It's the best job in the world. Like, when I signed up for it, I didn't know how good it would be, but this is a great job.
For our next Spirit of Courage Award, Matthew Bonowitz and Floyd Young remind us how everyday safety precautions save lives, and in this case, 2 young children. They were nominated by Frank Guido, Chief of Kingston 40 Fort Fire Department, and Rich Kochick, Chief of the Kingston Police Department. This award is sponsored by Kistler O'Brien Fire Protection.
I'm one of the assistant fire chiefs for the Kingston 40 Fort Fire Department in Luzerne County, and I've been doing this about 30 years.
I've been a police officer since January 2004.
My father was a member of 2 volunteer fire departments.
My father was a police officer as well. My grandfather was a police officer.
I think it's in your blood. It's in your blood. My partner, Jeff Lindgren, and I, we were in what's called our watch room, which is the radio room at the fire station. And it was kind of a hectic day. We were the only 2 that were immediately available at that time because there were other incidents going on.
911 dispatched us. They advised us that there was a fire on Chester Street in Kingston.
We hopped in an engine and took off.
I advised 911. I let them know that I was in the area and I was heading to the scene. At that point, the father was, I believe, in the back of the residence attempting to extinguish the fire himself. Neighbor was frantic, saying there was a child inside of the residence. Went inside the front door of the residence, was met with smoke condition. Went down a hallway and I heard a child. I just remember picking him up and taking him outside, and I thought, wow, that was, we're good to go. And then that's when I came back outside, and that's when they said there was another child inside. I could see flames going towards the rear of the residence. I went in first at that point and attempted to get to the second floor, but conditions really did deteriorate at that time. Went back outside to try to catch my breath, and went back in, try to go up those stairs, and again, I wasn't able to do so. Neighbor did attempt to do so also, but he wasn't able to do so either because of the conditions. I remember the thought crossing my mind that this kid that was downstairs may not grow up with his brother upstairs. I remember that thought crossing my mind. When I saw Assistant Chief Young pull up in the passenger seat of the engine and get out of the engine, I felt it was definitely a little bit more reassurance that things might go okay.
My partner Jeff and I arrived to find Officer Bonowitz and the neighbors trying to get into a home, trying to get into a 2.5-story home. They had real heavy heat and black smoke pushing out the front door of the home. There is no way, no matter how hard they tried, they were going to be able to get through that smoke without some protective equipment. Officer Bonowitz came running up to me. He told me that they had already removed a child from the first floor, but there was still a child on the second floor. Everybody's worst nightmare, children above a fire, right? The neighbors and the child's dad were really trying to get through this front door. I was really afraid they were going to be injured or killed.
The father was pointing to an area, and I remember Floyd saying, "Your son, that bedroom, that window."
And he said, "My son sleeps in that bedroom." So that was the first thing that was very helpful, is somebody knowing their own home and knowing where their child would be. Matt and I grabbed a ground ladder and threw the ground ladder to the second floor of the home. And because that dad was able to tell us what room the child was in, the first room we laddered, I took an axe and smashed out the window, jumped in, did a really fast search. During the search, you could hear the child crying. Grabbed the child, went back to the window, handed him out to Officer Bonowitz, who had climbed the ladder. It was a very dangerous situation.
And that's like, one of those things where you never want to think about it happening. And no matter what, your role is as an individual, as a police officer, a firefighter, or just a member in the community, you never want to hear that any child's in danger.
What really helped is Dad knew the house. Dad knew where his son would be, and the son's bedroom door was closed. So there was smoke in the bedroom, but there was not the high heat. Where out in the hallway there was high heat and fire. That bedroom door was able to give that child a couple minutes until we can get there.
That was life-saving for that child.
The fire did start on the back porch, and it was a very windy day. Dad tried to extinguish the fire himself, and just the winds that day overpowered the garden hose and overpowered the dad.
It's a reminder that, Anything could happen.
Life is precious. So, you know, anything can happen. Life is short.
The different lessons learned from this fire specifically, I hope carry on to, you know, anybody that knows of this story.
Our next Spirit of Courage Award shows how teamwork and not giving up saved a woman's life. Congratulations to Thomas English, Andrew Getka, Dev Cannon, and Corbin Kaiser for their perseverance. They were nominated by Michael Glore, Deputy Chief of the City of Reading Department of Fire and Rescue Services.
The call came in, it was Friday, April 9th I think it came in right at 9 o'clock in the morning, and there was a training group going out to do hazmat training.
We were actually had just parked Ladder 3 at Engine 7's quarters to attend that training, and we just got out of the rig and just about in the building, and they dropped what we call a box alarm to state that there was a house on fire. We were technically out of service at the moment, and we asked Chief Moore what he wanted us to do, and he said, go, it's so close. So we took the call in. As soon as we parked Ladder 3, firefighter Kaiser was coming up the side of Ladder 3. He was on the rescue that day, and he advised me it was a basement fire.
So I had my face piece on, walked on the porch, kind of looked down the side of the building to see if I could see anything coming out, you know, that would give us a clue as to where in the basement it was. Didn't see anything, so we just went in the front door. And as soon as we opened the front door, smoke was banked down to the floor. Pretty much lights out conditions, we call it. Just kind of can't see a thing in front of you.
There was multiple conflicting reports as to whether it was entrapment or not. I think the report changed about 3 times in the first 2 minutes of the call, whether or not we had somebody in there.
We search every house as if there's somebody inside, even if people tell us there's nobody inside. But there was still one occupant that the neighbors had said her car was outside, and she might still be inside.
Chief Moyer came back and said, I've got a handful of guys going upstairs already. Stick with the hose team. So we went downstairs. You know, those guys knocked the fire down. I searched the basement, got to the Bilco doors. Somebody from the outside had already opened those up. So everything in the basement up until this time was going according to plan.
Firefighter Kaiser and Lekwinko were working the second floor bedrooms already. So I went to go to the third because firefighter English was up there. Well, he was already coming down the steps to the third to advise me that that was clear. And then we kind of all did another thorough check on the second. And I believe maybe by that time we were told that they felt she was in there. And the thing that was very unique about that call is we came very close to missing her.
As I was coming back up through the middle bedroom of the second floor, I noticed a ironing board and a bed. And I had not seen that before because I was just going straight to the back to meet up with Kenny. Using the training that we get in the academy, I got on top of the bed and I started feeling around in the sheets, and I felt what I felt was a large pillow, and then I heard the pillow breathe.
So everything in the basement up until this time was going according to plan. The fire was knocked down. The doors were open, so smoke was starting to vent out. We had searched the basement, didn't find any people, didn't find anything, and no other fire. Somewhere right around that time, firefighter Kaiser got on the radio and said, I have a victim on the second floor. We're going to try and bring him down the stairs.
I got her on the ground and started trying to take her out and down the steps, and she just slid right through my hands. The lieutenant at that point had come up, Lieutenant Getka, who I was driving, had come up, and he suggested try putting her onto a sheet so that we could carry all 4 corners of the sheet. After we tried that for what felt like an eternity, but probably was only realistically 10 seconds, I heard her stop gasping.
One of the guys said, hey, I think she stopped breathing. And then I was like, okay, well, we got to go. Firefighter English was right at the top of the stairs with me, and I was pretty much on the stairs. He was opposite into like the front bedroom, and he said, okay, we'll bring her head this way so then we can get her feet down the stairs.
I don't know who was at her head. I just know that I bear hugged her legs and used my body weight and her body weight and pretty much just slid down the stairs.
Unfortunately, it's not exactly pretty getting somebody out of that kind of thing, but if you took the time to make it pretty, that would reduce their chance of survival.
When we got to the bottom of the stairs, the floor had burnt through at the bottom of the stairs, and guys were down there doing an awesome job trying to keep us away from it. Got her outside and then got her into the care of EMS, and they did their job and brought her back. My mentors and and chiefs and instructors have ingrained into myself and my classmates, and be able to put that to work and have a favorable outcome for one of our citizens that's still with us today, because we were able to function as a team and get her out of her worst day. I don't know what else I would do. I'm at this point, I love this job. It's the best job in the world.
By the time firefighters got to the scene of a fire in Upper McCunchy Township, the home was fully involved. Matt Sadrovitz did everything possible to save the victim. He was nominated by Jonathan Reck.
My wife and I just welcomed our daughter, maybe 3 days before. So we were at home and getting used to the new baby and the new lifestyle. This particular instance, there was a house fire early in the morning. The 911 center said that there was multiple callers that were actually on I-78 that reported smoke and flames from a house along the highway. So from maybe 2 blocks out, you can see that this is a white house and that there's fire coming out the windows on the second floor. So immediately you know that this is something that you're gonna have to go to work, and a significant amount of work's gonna have to go into this. And as we pulled up, the fire's continuing to pour out the windows. More smoke's coming out of the second floor. Smoke is now coming out of the first floor. As we came across the front yard, we knew that's where we had to be because the front door was closed and it was actually barricaded shut with some bushes growing in front. So it was pretty obvious to us that it wasn't being used. We got into the driveway. One of the other chief officers that was there had told me that there was the resident of the house that was unaccounted for. So now we have possibly somebody trapped. I finished donning my gear. So as I'm trying to put my face piece on, I would assimilate the heat and the flames coming out to laying out on a New Jersey beach in the middle of July with no sunscreen on for 2 hours, taking that kind of beating in your face in a matter of seconds. So part of my responsibility as being that guy in the right front seat of the fire engine is going all the way around the building and doing a 360-degree survey. On that, what we're looking for is there open windows, open doors that we don't have to delay getting in by forcing a door or forcing a window open. In this particular instance, I found the back door was open. A police officer helped direct me over there. The crew brought the hose line around the back. When we got there, we could actually only open the door about 6 inches. So I noted that there was a buildup of boxes and almost like a hoarding type condition behind. I didn't want to delay the hose line getting in place, so I sent them around to a different door with another officer, hoping that they could get in while I was at least clearing some debris. I was able to get myself inside, start removing the debris so we could get that door open. A condition like that is a very dangerous situation for us, especially for the firefighters. We go in, we can't see anything. If we reach up to try to grab for somebody or something that we think may be somebody, and you grab onto something and pull a significant amount of debris on top of you, now you could become trapped yourself. It's actually a very dangerous situation for us to put ourselves into. I could not see at all while I was standing up. As I dropped to my knees, I actually had to push my face to the floor to be able to see some clean air, probably about 8 or 10 inches off the floor, and all I could see was the floor and boxes. I was able to take a thermal imaging camera, which helps us look through the smoke at walls, at heat signatures, and things of that such. As I swept around the room, I noticed that I found the stairs. That was actually right in front of me. The smoke had been pushed down so far from the fire on the second floor that if you were at standing eye level, you couldn't see anything. You were at zero visibility. So at that time, I was actually on my knees and utilizing the camera to actually look through the smoke. So knowing that the fire was on the second floor, I now had a clear path for the hose line to come in. They were able to come back around and get themselves into place. As they got themselves into place, again, knowing that there's someone somewhere in this building, I'm going to start on the fire floor and I'm going to work my way back from the most dangerous to the least dangerous. So I ascended the stairs. I noted that there was a significant amount of fire that was coming from what may have been a bedroom. If you're facing the front of the house, it would be the right side. And that kind of caught my eye for a second. And as I'm taking the stairs, I'm looking at this to my left and trying to get a gauge of how deep this room's going to go. And I noticed a arc type motion, something that just didn't belong. And as I looked over, there was a man sitting on the stairs with a green garden hose in his hand, who was actually putting water on the fire and keeping it at bay from burning him any more than he already had been. He appeared to be unconscious. It almost looked as if he was trying to save his own home. I put myself between this gentleman and the fire. To give you a reference, I'm 5'11" and about 200 pounds. This gentleman would have towered over me and was significantly wider than I was. So it was a significant effort on my part to try to get him turned around, get underneath his arms, pick him up, and bring him across the landing and back down the stairs. I was able to do so with a significant amount of effort. As I got to the bottom of the stairs, there were 2 other firefighters that were there to help me go the last 10 feet, which I was very thankful for. By the time I got to the bottom of the steps, I was absolutely exhausted and felt like I couldn't go anymore. So we were able to move him the last 10 feet. EMS was there, and the paramedics were on him pretty much immediately. We called and said we were coming out with him. So that's where we handed him off to them and went back inside and continued to put the fire out. This has very much changed how I look at things and things that I've done here recently. Since that moment, how I train other firefighters, how I train myself, making sure that I am kissing my wife and daughter before I go, all kinds of things. And now I know that I, myself, and the rest of the people that I lead can provide a better service for the community.
And for our final Spirit of Courage Award, we are reminded by Doug Cochran that every call needs to be taken seriously. Doug was nominated by John Bast, retired chief of the Easton Fire Department. This award is sponsored by Service Electric TV.
It was probably like 9 o'clock-ish at night, cold night, December 5th, and got dispatched for a fire alarm in an apartment building on the south side. Heat detector activation, which was abnormal for us. Normally it's a smoke detector, but heat detector means they picked up heat. So we went there. Only 2 trucks went emergency to the call for a new SOP. So it was me and a command truck with my captain and 1 engine, and everybody else was like going normal flow of the traffic. So when you go to the same place like 15 times a month, you slow down. You're like, all right, somebody's cooking or forgot their food in the stove, whatever. But the heat detectors was what made it different. Like a heat detectors normally go off for a fire, like for food in the stove. So that's kind of what gave us the first clue. And then we pulled in, you can smell it. I rolled my window down, and you can smell the difference between a house fire and overcooked popcorn. Big difference. So it was a big L-shaped building. It was 250 Ann Street. So it's a really big apartment building, one of the bigger ones in Easton. And there's a tiny building that used to be like maybe like a laundry room, office. You know, that's where she was. They made that into apartments. So you couldn't see that building unless you came in that entrance. But the way the parking lot is, it's a one-way. So you don't see that unless you do a whole lap. So we were parked like 200 yards away from the apartment building that was actually on fire. And I'm getting my air pack on, the guy goes, it's over here. I said, what is? He said, the fire. I'm like, all right, you got my attention. So I ran around the building, and the fire was blowing out the window. So I told my captain, hey, we have a fire, we need to upgrade it. Spent like a minute or 2 trying to find the door to the apartment. At that time, the engine was pulling up behind me. Some guy told me which door to open. It was apartment 2. I was searching for people. The door was locked, which is rare in Easton. So the door was locked, both doors were locked, even the screen door, which is a big clue because who locks their screen door and leaves the house? So I forced both doors, went inside. I could see like waist level in the kitchen. They put the fire out from the window, which they didn't start doing until I got inside there. And then when the fire is burning, free burning, you can see a little bit. And then as soon as that hose line opened, you couldn't see anything. Couldn't see anything, the heat got worse. Went into the kitchen, made a right into the living room, made another right, and I hit her with my kneecap. And I was like, oh, that feels like something. And I reached down, I gripped her leg, and I'm like, oh, that's actually a person. So I put a priority message out, drug her out, I passed her off to my lieutenant at the door, went back in, continued the search. Bulk of the fire was knocked, and they got pulses back on her, I believe, at the scene. They tried CPR on her, but they did get pulses back. I think she was intubated for like 28 days, something like that. But to my knowledge, she made it, from what I was told. Small apartment, lots of beds. There was beds on the floor, there was piles of clothes everywhere. So like there was 18 beds, something like that, in that apartment. So there was plenty of people staying there. She was just the only one inside. The heat definitely rose once the engine started putting water on it, because when the fire was trying to go out the back, and then when he was hitting it from the window, it pushed all the heat back to me and back to her. So we went back in the next day to look around, and like the thermostat above her head was melted, like the the cabinets in the kitchen, which were the farthest room away, they were melting off the wall. So it was a good fire. It was very, very hot. There was about 75 people standing outside and no one called 911. Not a single person. Like sometimes you'll get a call saying the building's on fire and there's nothing going on. But this time there was a building on fire with somebody inside and no one called. It was a big moment, it was. Some guys would do their whole career and not see a good fire, or let alone pull somebody out of a building. So that's a big deal. When you train really hard to do exactly what you're trained to do, and you actually pull it off, it's a pretty cool feeling. The fire department's always gonna be a part of my life forever. Whether I'm 80 years old or 35, I'll always be a fireman, no matter where I am.
With the help of generous donors and sponsors, the Burn Prevention Network is proud to provide the Valley Preferred Spirit of Courage Awards, now in their 16th year, along with burn prevention and support services. The Burn Prevention Network has provided education and materials to fire services, first responders, educators, and healthcare providers for more than 35 years. Its efforts reach 800,000 people and 900 elementary and middle schools every year. A hallmark of services is Camp Susquehanna, a summer camp for young burn survivors. Camp Susquehanna is a magical place. Kids can just be kids, not kids with scars. Here's what they have to say about it.
It's not like you think it's gonna be like scary or stuff like that, but it's actually, once you get there, you realize how fun it is, and like all of the stuff you're worrying about, it'll all get taken care of by like the counselors or stuff like that, and you're safe out at all times too.
The reason why I keep coming back is because if I don't come back, I won't be able to see my friends and my camp family.
I love it because you can just be yourself. You don't have to worry about your burns or your, like my face. You don't have to worry about it because no one will judge you at all.
All of the things that they do relate to their life skills. So we want them to have fun. We want them to do things and maybe expand their experiences and do things that they've never done before. And they can do these in a safe environment where they know they're supported, where they know if they don't do it, where they make a mistake, it's okay. And through that, we hope that they increase their self-esteem, that they feel good about themselves, that they manage those challenges, that they say to themselves, look what I did, I can do it.
It's hard sometimes to leave camp and go back into the real world. And it's also hard to describe camp to people who haven't been there, because it's a feeling deep down in your heart and in your soul that you'll never be able to relay to somebody else. And so you go back to your lives after camp and you carry all of these magnificent moments with you.
I think for a child to come to camp, it gives them the opportunity to be around people and learn from people who have been through the same thing that they have. They have been through the surgery, they have been through the healing process, they have been through the pain, they have been through the journey. And so they get to have somebody that can come along and walk beside them and help them move further in their journey and in their healing, and they get to know that they're not alone.
One of the things that we wish for all of our campers is that camp is a place that helps reveal their potential to them, where they can see the possibilities that live inside them and carry that hope and that sense of their own ability and their own worthiness outside into the world outside of camp.
None of us will be here forever, and certainly I won't, but I think as a baby, this baby camp has grown, has flourished, and it will be here. It has changed many lives.
Our final award of the evening goes to a burn survivor who has helped create the magic of Camp Susquehanna. The Walter J. Okunski Phoenix Award recipient is Wendy Davis. Like the mythical phoenix bird, the award symbolizes new life after fire. It is a reminder that even in catastrophic suffering, there's an opportunity to flourish. It takes a special kind of courage to emerge from a burn injury. Wendy has used that courage to heal herself and to help others heal. She has developed a reputation as someone who is all in, who will do anything for the kids. Wendy was nominated for the Phoenix Award by Michelle Scales, nurse in the Lehigh Valley Health Network Regional Burn Center. The award is sponsored by Medevac.
So I was camping with my family and I went to light the campfire. I thought it went out and I went to pour the fuel back on it to relight it, and there was a little flame underneath the cardboard, and it lit back up. And my daughter was standing next to me and I had the fuel in my hand, and when I pushed her back, it went on my shirt. So then it just wouldn't go out. They airlifted me to Lehigh Valley, where they did my surgery. I was in a coma for almost a month. My face wasn't as bad as I thought, but my arm and my chest was worse than I thought it was going to be. I had the original surgery, and then I went home. And I didn't have any other surgery until like 8 years later, I think it was. Dr. Epperwein did a release in my, in between my thumb and finger and in between on my arm right here, she released so that I was able to open my arm. But for the longest time, I couldn't like open up. I was very reserved for a while after I got burned. I didn't really go out. I couldn't take the staring, people staring at you all the time, because I'd forget. Like I'd be like, what are you looking at? I know that they really don't mean to do it, but it's uncomfortable.
So I met Wendy in July 2017, and she was actually visiting a patient that I was taking care of. The gentleman was in critical care and had sustained a pretty significant burn.
My friend, Julie, she had a house fire, and her husband is a burn survivor, and her son. I just wanted to help her. I just felt like I could tell her a little bit of what was, coming up, like what I went through. You just want to be there for people.
Wendy sort of came around and sort of healed herself by helping somebody else, which, how much better could you ask for than somebody that's been through that and knows what you're going through and can help you, along the same journey.
She had asked me to go to the support group with her, and that was the first time I went. It was amazing. Like it was the first time I had met another burn survivor. It was just like you felt like you could just talk about anything, like immediately. Like it was just like a relief. There was people that were just burned, and then there was people that were there for, their injuries were 40 years old. So there was such a mixture of people. It's a community, the burn communities, like all those people have been there with you since the beginning. So they see what everybody goes through and they want to continue to help you. Liz Hess was the head of the support group. And maybe like the second time I came to support group, she was like, come to camp. So I signed up and I went that, I think it was the next year. Camp is amazing. Like they have so many things for the kids to do. If you just look at the pictures of their faces, like how happy they are, like experiencing all these things. And the kids come from like the middle of the city to like the middle of the country. And normal situation, maybe never met in their life. Instant friends, like connection like that. Like it's amazing to watch. They get off the bus and they're so shy and they're so nervous, covered up at first, and then all of a sudden they're like, first time they're taking off their sleeves and they're wearing tank tops and they're in their bathing suits and, feeling comfortable being around other people. It changes them. I think it really does. It changes everyone. We get to go and do all the activities with them, so it's fun. You get to see them happy and they'll get you to do anything. Anything they ask, I'm like, okay, let's do it. Let's go.
There are so many things that make Wendy special. She came the first year. She didn't really know anyone. She was very nervous, and she dove in with both feet and her entire body. I mean, literally.
So we went down to go fishing, and then one of the girls decided that she was going to do the polar plunge. And I was like, guess I'm jumping in. So we jumped in, and it was amazing. That girl is incredible. Some of these kids, you see what they can do, and it's like, if they can do it and they're so little, I don't know, they're so resilient, it's inspiring.
One of the first nights we were at camp, we have a campfire for the different age groups.
And we're like roasting marshmallows. The kids were all up, and there was one girl standing back. I'm standing back with her, and I told Michelle, I am terrified right now. I'm like, I don't want to go up there. And she's like, you can stay back here. You're fine. And I'm back there, and then the girl says, I think I want to go up and do it.
And they walked up to that campfire, and both of them roasted marshmallows together and made their own s'more. And then as they walked away, Wendy and her high-fived each other and was like, we did it!
It was crazy because, I'll do it with them, but I'm shaking the whole time. She was like so impressed with herself. She was like, I did it, I can't believe I did it. She was also burned in a campfire.
I have never been more proud of somebody in my life. Like, you just conquered a major fear, and you helped a camper do the exact same thing.
They take chances, they take risks, they step out of their comfort zone because they see someone that they admire and respect doing the same thing. And not only at camp, she was a rock star at camp, but when she came home, she immediately started asking how she could help in other ways.
Jen and Leah do a bingo, and I was at the bingo, and I was like I want to do this. So there's this little winery up the street from me, and they donated their space. The people there are amazing. Even the donations, I can't believe how many donations I got. Like, our local community, hundreds of, we went up and down the streets in Jim Thorpe, and every single person we asked donated. It was amazing. We had tons of stuff, and we had a lot of people show up. We raised over $2,000, and it was only like 3.5 hours or something like that.
Camp would not exist without people like Wendy. I'm blown away by her dedication and enthusiasm toward wanting to give these kids the best experience that they can possibly have.
There's so many people that I've met across this that they're amazing. I love it.
The Burn Prevention Network also needs your help. We are the leading source of fire prevention education for eastern and northeastern Pennsylvania and western New Jersey. Our programs are especially targeted to those most vulnerable to the devastation of fire. Tonight's award ceremony is just one of many programs we bring to our communities. As you saw from these stories, any one of us could suddenly find ourselves in a fire situation. Please help us continue this vital, life-saving work by donating today. Scan the QR code on your screen or visit burnprevention.org to make a secure donation and to hear why others support our efforts.
Thanks, Dan. Many people are involved in the planning of tonight's event, and you can find the full list in the downloadable program book available at burnprevention.org or on WFMZ.com. The Valley Preferred Spirit of Courage Awards are about selflessness, sacrifice, and overcoming insurmountable odds. They are about heroes, the ones we celebrate tonight, and the ones we are all capable of becoming. Thank you again for joining us tonight. Good night, everyone, and please stay safe.